Welcome to Murder with the Misses. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy, and today we're going to tell you about Rebecca Zahau.
Don't forget to smash that like button and go and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and Facebook. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. We need those subscribers.
Yes.
And sponsors.
Yes. And this is a very well-known case. There are many different opinions on this case. I have mine. So I wanted Darren's opinion too. And yours too. Be sure to comment. This is, like we said, widely known.
Absolutely. Because we actually had a viewer recommend a case to us recently.
Several, yeah.
Yeah, a few of them. And we did listen. We did do one of them.
We have already done one, yeah.
Yep. And we are looking into the other ones. It just takes a while. So, we have to do the research, or I say we. You have to do the research.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot.
I listened to these for the first time.
Right.
So I'm not, I didn't come in this being a true crimer like most of y'all that listen to them every day and everything. So I don't know a lot of these stories. I've heard of them a roundabout way.
Right.
And everything. But for the most part, a lot of these stories, this is all my reaction for the first time. So anyway.
Now, I also want to take a second to give a quick thank you to everyone who likes, shares, and subscribes. This is a free way that you can help us and any other podcast, YouTuber, TikToker, anyone you like to hear or watch. It makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
So thank you to everyone who has done that for us. We really appreciate you. And if you're like us and you don't like monthly subscriptions but still want to contribute, we now have a Cash App, which is $MurderWTM, so Murder with the Misses. So if you want to do it, great. We appreciate everything.
Yeah. And this is we're not trying to force anybody into paying anything. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't. Like
I said, like, share, subscribe. Free ways to help. Free ways to support.
Yeah. This right here, it just helps us with the research. It helps us with anything that we need to do. Basically, we want to try to get to the point where we actually help other people.
Help other people. Yep. So this is a trigger warning episode. If you don't already know the case, we will be discussing child death and self-harm. So safety first. Now let's get into it. Rebecca Zahau was born in Burma, but the family had to leave due to political war. And it has been reported in some areas that they were a prominent family in Burma. They were very high up there. Now, they did go to Nepal and Germany before they moved to the United States around 2001. She was raised Protestant, and her parents and most of her family lived in St. Joseph, Missouri. She has an older sister, Mary, a younger sister, Zena, along with other siblings, but these two will be mentioned in this case. In 2002, she married a 36-year-old nursing student named Neil from Scottsdale, Arizona. They did split up, but didn't actually get divorced until 2011. But in August of 2009, Rebecca was arrested for shoplifting $1,000 worth of jewelry from Macy's in Phoenix, Arizona. She did plead guilty and took her punishment. Loads of people have things like this in their past. We're not all saints. We might fuck up here and there, but we're trying. So no judgment.
I'm assuming that she died.
Right.
So if this has nothing to do with death, then it's just a background?
It's just background.
Okay.
Yeah, because if we don't mention it, someone somewhere will reach out saying, oh, you forgot to mention that she has a history of stealing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Unclutch your pearls.
Yeah.
We mentioned it, and again, it has nothing to do with her death.
Yeah, I mean, the background there, get off your high horse. Come on.
Yeah, you've never done anything great.
Because even some of the richest people in the world, they go out and steal stuff just to get that rush.
The rush, exactly.
And everything. And I ain't condoning going out and fucking doing little petty thefts and everything like that. Just work for it.
And who knows her reasoning for doing it? You don't know.
Yeah.
We know people who have been falsely accused of stealing stuff and had to go through the punishment because they wouldn't actually tell who actually did it. So there's all kinds of circumstances.
Yeah.
And we're going to move on. So also in all this overlapping information, she had started dating Jonah Shacknai in 2008. Jonah was the CEO of Medici's Pharmaceutical, that's the name, and was the 9th highest paid CEO in Arizona. In 2010, reportedly, he earned $6.4 million. Now he's a billionaire, so he's doing okay financially. They apparently met while she was at work. She was working as an ophthalmic technician, but she did quit that job in 2010. I imagine because she's now dating a billionaire. Jonah had children from prior marriages, His first marriage to Kimberly resulted in 2 children, and they went through a 3-year custody battle for these kids. Then he married Dina Romano, and they had a son named Max before they got divorced. His full name was Maxfield, but they called him Max. That's cute.
I thought it was like Maximus.
I know. I had to
Maximilian.
I had to put it in there because I was like, a lot of people's going to be like, what is it for? It was Maxfield, which is also cute. So when Rebecca and Jonah got into a relationship, he had 3 kids that came along with him.
I mean, and that's pretty common.
Very common. Very common. And this brings us to July 11th of 2011. Rebecca, Jonah, Rebecca's teenage sister Zena, and Max had been staying in an Ocean Boulevard mansion in Coronado, California. They were summering there. And this had originally been built for John D. Spreckels, so it is widely referred to as the Spreckels Mansion. Jonah was at the gym, so he wasn't home. And according to Rebecca, she was in the bathroom when 6-year-old Max fell face first off the 2nd floor banister. Hearing the noise, Rebecca and Zena run in, and Zena calls 911. Max was not breathing and was unresponsive, laying on the 1st floor, with the chandelier next to him and his scooter rear wheel and rear 1/3 portion of the footplate laying across his lower right shin. He was taken to the hospital in San Diego with injuries to his face and spine. The injuries are then causing breathing and heart issues. So while alive, it is a precarious situation where all they can do is wait. The next day, July 12th, Dina and Jonah were at the hospital with Max. So Rebecca took her sister to the airport to fly home to Missouri. Jonah's brother Adam had flown in from Memphis, Tennessee. So she dropped her sister off, picked Adam up, and brought him back. Jonah met them and a friend named Howard for dinner. And then Jonah went back to the hospital while Rebecca took Adam to the mansion. Adam slept in the guest house out back, which I need you to understand that the guest house is like the size of a normal person's house, actually a rich person's normal house. Like this is a giant mansion. It's ridiculous. And Jonah would stay at the Ronald McDonald house so that he could stay close to Max.
I bet he only went there to sleep too.
Yeah.
He probably spent a lot of his time at the hospital.
All of his time, yeah. So reportedly he only left to eat or sleep.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. Your kid is fighting for his life. The next day, July 13th, Adam says he came out of the guest house and saw Rebecca, completely nude, wrists and ankles bound, hands behind her back, hanging from the balcony. He called 911 at 6:48 a.m. He texted Jonah. He ran into the house, got a knife, got a 3-legged table, put it up underneath her, cut Rebecca down, and did CPR. Medics arrived and attempted to revive her, but she was pronounced dead at the scene. Max would sadly pass away from brain damage caused by oxygen deprivation on the 16th. On the 26th, his death was ruled an accident. And then on September 2nd, the San Diego County Sheriff's Office formally announced that the cause of Rebecca's death was suicide.
With her hands behind her back?
With her hands tied behind her back.
Huh.
And this would launch a huge, years-long debate on both deaths as to what really happened, because there is more to get into. We'll start with Max. His case docs say that the railing height, along with the 2nd floor hallway, was approximately 6 inches above the standing center of gravity for someone of Max's height. So he couldn't have fallen over the railing if he was just maybe running down the hall and tripped. He was found with his scooter on him. So if he was on the scooter and went over the railing, it still wouldn't have made him tall enough. There was a theory that he tripped over the dog, because Rebecca supposedly she didn't tell first responders, they overheard her say that Max had said the word ocean, which is the dog's name. Maybe he tripped over the dog. And this also makes no sense if he couldn't have gotten over that railing.
If he wasn't breathing, how could he say ocean?
Right. That's another problem. Yeah. They're like, I thought he wasn't breathing. How's he talking to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very wild. And there is another theory. Of course, there's been a bunch, but one of the other ones was that he was actually on the scooter and trying to ride it down the rail. And that's how he fell.
I highly doubt that.
Some say, he was 6. They're saying that maybe
was there any marks on the railing?
Oh, yeah. Well, because so the railing makes kind of a U shape as it goes up and then up. He fell off the top part. So he literally hit the chandelier, hit the other rail, and came down on the floor face first. So yeah, there's marks on all the railings.
And how old was this kid?
He was 6.
Come on.
Yeah.
He bunny hopped that scooter up on top of the railing.
I'm showing Darren the picture of how the cops reenact it to show how he went over that railing. And I'll post it on Facebook so everybody can see it too. But it's a big...
I don't even think a 6-year-old could do that.
It's a big debate over whether this could have happened or not.
That's more unlikely. I don't see that.
Okay. Now, with regular Joes like us and with the experts, there's been big debate. A trauma doctor who had examined him before his death told police that the injuries from the fall were not consistent with the cardiac arrest and brain swelling. So they were saying that Max had suffocated prior to the fall. That would mean that this definitely was not an accident. Dina, Max's mom, is convinced that this was murder. And she already didn't like Rebecca spending so much time with Max. And that may be why Rebecca was reportedly overheard by first responders also saying, Dina is going to kill me. And she took care of Max most of the time when Jonah's visitation was happening, because you can't be a CEO of all these places and be home all the time. So I can only imagine the animosity. This woman is there, she's taking care of your kid, and then now all of a sudden something happens to him and nobody can give you an answer. Yeah, I could see that. So let's get into all the stuff with Rebecca's case. One thing that really pissed me off is that she was laying in the backyard of the house. Maybe it's because they felt like this was secluded enough of an area that people driving by or walking by wouldn't be able to see her. But the police just left her laying there. They didn't cover her up. And the news helicopter was able to fly overhead and take pictures of her naked body just laying there.
What the fuck?
Yes. It took 12 hours for the ME to get to the scene. So she laid there exposed for 12 hours.
That's just crazy.
The disrespect.
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break. And now let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. If you live in an apartment, it can be murder to get laundry done. There is a better way, and it will keep you out of prison.
Since 2008, My Laundry Solutions has been your #1 choice for washer and dryer rentals.
Ask about My Laundry Solutions in your apartment leasing office or schedule online at mylaundrysolutions.com.
They are available in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Springfield and Joplin, Missouri, Little Rock, Arkansas, Sherman, Dallas, Houston, and Lubbock, Texas. So many places. No credit check, free service. Your account is available online and they professionally install. Check out mylaundrysolutions.com or call 800-535-4411 today.
It would be criminal not to give them a shot. Go and check out My Laundry Solutions. They're a great company to work with, especially if you live in an apartment complex.
Yes.
They got great deals for you. Go check them out.
And washers and dryers are damn expensive.
Oh, yeah. And they give you the opportunity to rent.
Lease, yeah.
Basically to lease them. That's kind of a win-win. So,
right.
And they maintenance everything.
True.
So they actually have people that come out and work on them and fix them and everything else. I mean, it's just you guys need to go check them out.
Check them out. So one of the first things that they notice on Rebecca are the knots. Her feet are bound. And remember, her hands are behind her back. There is a long sleeved blue shirt, and the body of the shirt has been wrapped around her neck 3 times. The sleeves were double knotted and then put in her mouth like a gag. Her hair was between that shirt and her neck. So we've said it before. This is a wide belief that a woman would clear their hair out and would not commit suicide naked. So this is also suspicious. The knots on the hand and foot bindings were overhand and clove hitch knots, which are commonly used for nautical purposes. Now, Jonah's brother Adam had been a tugboat pilot for years, but police say that this does happen. These are common knots. People can do them. I couldn't do it. I don't know if you've ever seen this knot, but come on. That's giving me a lot of damn credit. They say that people do try to restrain themselves sometimes when they take their own life because that way they can't back out, you know? They had a full-on reenactment and showed a video of a woman who wrapped rope around her hand several times in front of her, slipped one hand out, put her hands behind her back, slipped her hand back in, and then tied the knot at the bottom of it to tighten it. The only issue with this was that when she tied the knot, it was at the bottom by her hands. Rebecca's knot was at the top. so much harder to reach. She had tape residue on her legs, and they never offered an explanation for that. The other end of the rope went over the balcony and was tied to the leg of the bed. There was evidence that the bed had moved less than a foot from its original position.
A foot is not exactly a small amount.
It's not exactly a small amount, yeah.
But I mean, you got a guy that worked on a tugboat, so he knows nautical knots.
Yes.
This was tied in a nautical knot.
Yes, everything was in nautical knots. Now,
and they're tied to where it's basically impossible for somebody to tie it this certain way.
Right.
I mean, it could be tied in reverse.
Yeah, they could tie it
this way, but it can't be tied the way that it was tied.
Right.
Yeah, with the knot on top. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because your wrist won't bend around like that.
They won't bend that way.
I mean, hell, my wrist barely bend anyway.
And then that's the foot knots.
Now, that one right there, she probably could have done that one first.
Yeah.
I could see that being done first, but the other one with the knot being on top, I couldn't see her doing that.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it.
All right.
There were 2 paintbrushes found in the bedroom. There was a message painted on the door in black saying, "She saved him. Can he save her?" Rebecca did like to paint, so there were paint supplies on hand. And the tube of that paint was on the floor. Now, when they tested it, they found 1 fingerprint from Rebecca on the cap. There were no fingerprints on the tube.
Oh, so it was wiped clean.
Yep. There was also black paint on Rebecca, on her right hand, left breast, right nipple, right upper chest, right upper index finger, and neck. Paint was also found on the rope, but not on the gag, which would mean that she had to tie that shirt around her neck, gag herself, then write the note, and then bound her hands. And there were no fingerprints around either of the paintbrush handles, so it appeared to have been wiped down as well.
Yeah, so she did all that while she painted herself too.
Yep, and she got paint all over herself. Now, why that one was around the nipple is another big point of contention. The height of the letters on the door was suspicious too. Experts say that most people write at a shoulder level when they're standing up and writing on something in front of them. The height of these letters would put the writer at approximately 5'11" tall. Rebecca was 5'2", but Adam was 5'10". There were also 2 knives found in the bedroom, a bigger one and a smaller one. And I will mention here that Rebecca was menstruating at the time. On the smaller of these knives, around all 4 sides of the handle was her menstrual blood, meaning it had to have been inserted into her. The larger of the knives had Rebecca's fingerprints on the blade, but not on the handle. There was a mixture of DNA from at least 2 people. The sample provided an insufficient amount of information for conclusions or comparisons, so it was just too small. There was a fingerprint on the doorknob to the balcony, but it was also too little for them to get anything from it.
This is not making sense.
These cases never do. Also, Rebecca's feet were dirty. So was the balcony. And you can see her footprints on the balcony, but you also see a boot print. They say that that boot print was from law enforcement. Now, as you can probably guess, there's been a lot of things happen in this case. A lot of other experts have looked at it. A lot of things have happened, and there has been experts say that they compared that boot print to boots that are, used in law enforcement, and they're saying it's not a match. So do with that what you want.
Saying it's not a match?
Not a match, that it was not a law enforcement boot.
I wonder if it's from a boot from a tugboat operator.
Right?
Just saying.
Now, the theory is that she did all of this stuff, then she bound herself and waddled to the balcony and kind of rolled herself off, where she would go over almost horizontally. The autopsy showed multiple bruises on her body, damage to her arm, and 4 instances of head trauma. The medical examiner said, because there is no evidence that she went over the balcony in a non-vertical position, she may have struck her head on the balcony on the way down. Expert witness Spitz said, when the body first dropped, she doesn't necessarily jump to her death. So she would drop directly downward, and she could easily hit her head on the side of the structure from which she is hanging. But to draw a stronger conclusion, he would have preferred to have seen what the body looked like before the wrist bindings were removed. Dr. Godwin, a forensic consultant, was skeptical. He said the chances of bumping into the railing, going over the balcony, and hitting your head 4 times is highly unlikely. So the family requested a second autopsy. And Dr. Cyril Wecht, I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but he's been in several of these cases. So the second autopsy was done by another doctor who said that there were fractures in Rebecca's throat caused by manual strangulation, not suicidal hanging. So he called this a homicide. He also believed that there was evidence of sexual assault prior to her death. We knew that.
Well, no shit. Her blood was on the knife handle.
Exactly. That's an assault. And if this was suicide, she would have had to do that to herself. So believe what you want there too, I guess. He also says that she was already dead or dying when she was lowered off the balcony. Now, Paul Holes, the cold case investigator that we've talked about also in prior cases, said that for a long drop execution hanging, there would be a lot of damage, if not near decapitation. There would be a broken neck, internal decapitation after a 9 to 10 foot drop like that. And he agrees that this was a case of strangulation. The ME didn't want to be left out of the party, so they chime in again, saying evidence based on abrasions, contusions throughout the body, to me, indicates that Rebecca went face first over the railing and impacted, slid down the wall, breaking foliage, as well as leaving marks on the wall before the full length of that rope was reached, and did, in fact, hang herself. But O'Cyril came back and said even if her scalp hit bushes, that kind of impact would not produce subgaleal hemorrhages. We're talking about contusions on the top of the head. So even as the body is falling down, let's say there are branches, how do you get bruises on the top of your head as the body is falling vertically downward? So we got us a doctor fight, y'all. Also, an elderly neighbor that night who lived 2 doors down from the mansion is adamant that around 11:30, the night before Rebecca was found, she heard a woman scream for help. Now, the sheriff's office says that she also reported a group of 5 to 6 teenagers talking near a sidewalk outside of her house the same night. So they told her that she was mistaken. The voice she heard did not come from Spreckels Mansion.
She says she heard this. They said she didn't, and case closed.
Yeah, don't tell
So
me.
end of investigation. That's it.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
That's it. You didn't. I heard it. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
Don't tell me what I heard.
You just heard some teenage girls out there fucking giggling.
Now let's touch on the cell phone data. According to AT&T, from 8 to 10, Rebecca talked to and texted her sister Mary, who confirmed that Zena had made it home safe. She said that, Rebecca was upset that Max was in the hospital. She was upset that he had gotten hurt, but she was not suicidal. She was just sad about what was happening. At 10:48, she got a text from Dina's twin sister, Nina, saying she wanted to come by and talk about Max's accident. Rebecca left her on red. At 12:50 a.m., Rebecca checked her voicemail, and someone had left a message, but AT&T couldn't tell who it was from. Police say that it was from Jonah, saying that Max was getting worse. And the voicemail was deleted, so to my knowledge, that has never been proven. Hell, the police were afraid to even power on her phone, worrying that they might overwrite evidence in its memory, and they couldn't find any forensic software at the time to test while the phone was off. It wasn't until August 15th that a cop finally turned it on. And it doesn't matter anyway, because they still didn't request that AT&T retrieve the deleted message from their servers, and nothing came from the phone anyways. But I do want to mention too, that there was also another person who said that they saw a woman at the Spreckels Mansion, go to the Spreckels Mansion that night. So if Nina had texted and said, hey, I want to talk to you about Max, and then an hour later you hear somebody screaming for help, I mean, really? But anyways, since nothing is done and they can't do anything else, I guess, the case was closed. Rebecca's family had one option: to file a wrongful death suit against Dina, Nina, and Adam. They believed it's possible that all could have done something to Rebecca. But Dina was on the hospital surveillance footage showing that she had been there all night, so that put her out. Nina was apparently at Dina's house, but I don't know how they confirmed that she didn't leave. Either way, they were dropped from the suit, and that only left Adam.
The tugboat pilot who knew how to tie nautical knots.
That's him. But not according to him. He said in trial he didn't know how to tie those knots.
Whatever.
What kind of captain are you?
Yeah, exactly.
And he had taken a polygraph test in the case before it closed, and it was inconclusive.
You can't use fucking polygraphs in a fucking court case anyway.
I know. But either way, I mean, he's just obviously lying. Also, in the investigation, they found out that someone had looked up some things early that morning that she was found.
And here we go.
Like Asian porn and bondage. And he did admit to investigators that he masturbated to porn that morning. And I guess that's how he likes to start his day. But in this case, it looks really suspicious.
Of waking up is Asian porn
and bondage.
And bondage in your cup.
Wow.
Sorry.
Also, apparently evidence techs had found a pair of white, pink, and purple women's underwear in a trash can in the guest house where Adam was staying alone. So either they were his or he had some explaining to do. But that would only be if you asked him about them. Those were never tested. Also suspicious was the lack of his DNA on the knife that he used to cut her down and her body. He supposedly used that 3-legged table to cut her down, which I don't understand how he did that either, and do CPR, but none of his DNA got on the knife or her. The lawyers brought a life-size doll into court, one that was Rebecca's size, and they played out their theory as to what happened. And here's the theory. They say Rebecca was in the shower and turned it off. They know this because there was a drop of menstrual blood on the shower floor that didn't wash down the drain. They say that Adam confronted her, probably about Max. She ends up on the opposite end of the house somehow because that is where they find more drops of blood, her towel, and her cell phone. They say that Adam hit her on the head with something 4 times, knocking her unconscious. He then ties her up, gags her, sexually assaults her, and then strangles her before he lowers her or throws her off the balcony. And they were able to say that the balcony was shallow enough that a body could be thrown off without someone stepping onto it.
But her footprints are on it, so he would have had to stand her up at some point on the balcony.
Right, because there's literal, you can see where her toes were, you can see everything in the dirt. Plus her feet were very dirty, just like that balcony.
Yeah.
So she obviously, her feet had touched that balcony. But you only have to convince 9 out of 12 jurors, and 9 of the jurors said that he was responsible for her death in 2018. Her family was awarded $5 million. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm pretty sure his brother was the one in the family with the money. He's a self-made billionaire. So Adam didn't have a whole lot. In February of 2019, he appealed. But before final arguments, his insurance company settled for $600,000 with the Zahau family and an additional $167,000 for the loss of financial support Rebecca would have provided for her family. But this would prompt the sheriff's office to reopen the criminal case. But they closed it again without anything new really being done. So that's all that's been done in this case. It is considered closed. The wrongful death suit is done. Unless something new comes up, this is it.
And so that's it. That's all they're going to do. It's just nothing else.
Nothing else.
I mean, case closed, nautical knots, tugboat operator.
Okay. But in that, they say that, he's a millionaire at this point. He's got a boat. And him and Rebecca would go out on the boat and she would tie that boat up. So they're like, well, she could have known how to tie these knots.
Yeah, but the way they was tied.
Yeah, the way they were tied is not conducive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not believing it.
So some people think that a lot of people actually think that she did hurt herself because she felt bad for what happened to Max. Now, remember too, she did this the day after that happened to Max. Max was still alive.
So what they're thinking that she feels bad about it, so
yes.
She's fucking taking herself out.
And that's why she wrote on the door, she saved him because she did CPR on him. Can you save her?
Like they said, the writing on the door was from somebody that was at least 5'11". She's 5'2". Adam was 5'10".
Yeah.
So I'm looking more at the tugboat operator.
A lot of people do.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'll tell you what, that's my opinion.
Yep.
That's all it is. It's an opinion.
That's all we've got around here.
You guys let us know what you think. But until next time, you guys let us know what you think, and then you guys tune into the next one. Thanks for listening to this one. And tell your friends, like, share, subscribe. Till next time.
Bye.